In this lesson, Ali Zagid and I are going to walk you through how to execute a flick. So a lot of you might be trying this, you have some familiarity with it, but there is a lot to know about making an effective flick and to the targets that they are useful on. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in this lesson. A few things to note about setting up your flick. You do not want to do it from too far away, so if I'm all the way over here and I want to do a flick, I'm not going to hit anything. It will be impossible. Even if I lunge, it's very unlikely. If I'm even closer, so here I am, I have some overlap on the blade, I want to do a flick, still can't reach the target. If I'm sitting on guard, I might have a little bit better reach, but I'm only really able to hit just the cusp of the shoulder there. When you're flicking, you're hitting an oblique target, so that's the shoulders, the back, the sides, even in 4 if it's not facing. So what you want to do is first have your distance. If you're attacking from this distance and you want to hit the shoulder, you're going to raise your hand, you're going to point at the target. This is a direct attack distance, so if I want to make a flick, this is the relative distance I need. So you have to be pretty close to hit this target. If I'm trying to hit the side, same thing. I have to step forward to find the elevation of my hand. So elevation is always going to be the same. It's going to be circular. So if I'm hitting the shoulder, this is the same distance I need to hit the sides, and that's what you want to understand. If you want to hit even further, so if I want to hit the small of Ali Zagid's back, I have to be much closer so I can get the blade all the way past her shoulder, up around to her lower back. So this is important. Distance is what you want to set. Once you have your distance, there's one more element that you need to be aware of for a successful flick. This is something you need to do a lot of preparation for before you even start using it. When we're fencing, we need some hand strength, we need some arm strength. We really want to control our blade, we want to have good point control. However, a flick is a little bit different. You are manipulating your blade so it can bend. And this is not easy. You have to use a lot of torque, a lot of energy. This means you must have good hand strength, but more importantly, you need a strong, healthy arm as well. So you're going to be using everything through your bicep into your forearm, all the way into your hand to make a good flick. If you have a weak bicep, if you have a weak forearm, if your hand's not particularly that strong, you're going to find it very difficult to stop the blade in your flick. You do not want the blade to travel past, because then you're just chopping. You want to make sure that when you're on guard, you're keeping the elevation. So the blade will continue to bend, even though you've stopped here. And this is where you want that power in your arm. You're not hitting your opponent with that force, but you are using that force to bend the blade. We're going to do a few demonstrations in applying the flick. We're going to do it first from a static position. So Ali Zagid is going to do a step in attack. I'm going to make a parry, so she steps in. There's my parry, I have right of way. Now I'm going to make my riposte to the shoulder. There's the riposte right there. So you can see I'm keeping elevation. It looks like I'm pointing more or less out, away from her body, but my arm is parallel with her. It's more important that it's pointing past and above. So remember, it's a circle. If I'm over here, I'm still above the target. If I'm up here, I'm above the target. So it's just in relation to where we're hitting. In this one, we're going to be doing a little bit more of a fluid action. Ali Zagid is going to be pushing the attack, and she's going to execute it with a circle 6, flick to the shoulder. So I'm going to be retreating, she's pushing in, so she starts her advance, she takes my blade, and there's the riposte. So you can control how you make these flicks, but remember, you need that forearm, that bicep, and that hand strength. Make sure you have that good sense of distance, elevation of the hand. We're going to look at one last thing before we finish. The flick is an action that we want to reserve for when we can't hit direct. This is very important. If your opponent is displacing target, they're twisting, they're ducking, this is an appropriate time for a flick. But if their target is presented, they're not really confident to defend it, do a direct hit. Don't waste your time doing a flick. It's just not going to be the best use of your time. So, situations in which you can apply the flick. If Ali Zagid starts to duck or contort, so she's displacing her target, she's on guard, and she twists or she ducks, that's where I want to make the flick, because the target becomes available on a different line. Now, if she's stepping in, she steps in, parry, riposte. Why? Because the distance is reducing. Now, when we don't want to flick, if she's on guard and she's not really defending herself, I see a direct line. I can make a direct attack, but instead I do a flick. I didn't hit her. I'm completely far away. The reason why? Distance is off. Don't try to flick a forward-facing target. It's not going to work. Save it for the shoulders and the sides, the back. But if it's facing you, don't flick that. One last situation in which you are not going to want to do a flick is if Alizada is pushing the attack, she's pushing, and I retreat, and I flick, and I try to do a riposte, and I retreat, I'm almost never going to land. If you're going to do a flick as part of a defensive action, once you parry, you're not retreating anymore. You can parry, you can jump, you can make a flick in that action, you cannot continue to open the distance.